Guys, it may be the most wild time to be a One Piece fan. The anime has just announced that they will be taking a break from around late December, early January to April of 2026, ahead of starting to animate the Elbaf arc. But even bigger anime news, from then on, One Piece's anime will be seasonal, only releasing about 26 episodes a year. And this seems to have people worried, but I'm not gonna lie, in my opinion, this is literally the best path forward. They'll be giving every batch of episodes the attention they deserve, so I would at least expect some better animation and scene direction. They did say that the pacing will remain about 1-to-1, but listen, as long as that means that we don't get those annoying Dr. Chopper recap episodes, I'll be fine. We also got a confirmed release date for the One Piece live action season 2, being March 10th, 2026. That's my mom's birthday. I gotta call her early cause I'm gonna be locked in. Meanwhile in the manga, Oda is frying. Who knew that the Loki flashback would become the Herald flashback, which would become the Rocks flashback? Especially with Rocks being unironically one of the best written characters in the series, which coincides with him being the most hype and one of the strongest? Nah, God Valley is feeding generations. And on top of that, it was my birthday on Sunday. Well, it seems Oda wanted to give me another present because he gifted us a new SBS. And if you still don't know what the SBS is by now, it's essentially Oda's question corner where people can send him in questions and he can choose to answer them or not. Most likely not. He gets a lot of questions. If you're ready to dive into a bunch of new wild info, then y'all, I need y'all to do something for me. Like the video, okay? That's incredibly important. Subscribe to the channel for more One Piece content just like this every week. And share it around with all your friends who love the series. You know what we always say here. Let's get it going. Now to start us off, we already have something that's frankly just insane. To get information on Franky and Queen. Y'all remember in previous viewer cards when Queen's date of birth was changed and made it seem like he was older so that he could kind of match up with the other Mads members? We were getting all the information about his past. It was explained that he had a son 36 years ago and then abandoned said son. Yeah, Oda confirms it here. Queen is indeed Franky's papa. It's one of those little yes we got him moments that the fan base can have. Now this leads me into other questions that I have. One, it leads me to wonder, who is Franky's mom? She obviously got with Queen, but Queen is quite obviously not with her anymore since he's now in the Beast Pirates. This is just my headcanon, but maybe the fact that she left him is what caused him to become fat. She left him when he was slimmer but buff and it changed his ideology. Also, no Franky and Queen interaction on Wano, Oda? That's heinous, because why even bother this connection being a thing? Because when you think about it, Franky actually really had jack to do on Wano. He could have at least contended with the science of his father. There could have even been something really powerful between Sanji and Franky and being on the same crew as the sons of Judge and Queen, who used to be on Mads but were always fighting with each other. I mean, the closest we got is when Sanji saw Queen's rapid fire lasers and was like, Franky can make use of this, which we still have yet to see. Next up, we see Vivi's future. The same way that Oda does with all the Straw Hats, he shows us what Vivi will look like at age 40 and age 60 in the good and bad timelines. In the good timeline, Vivi started wearing glasses at 40, but besides that, she just kind of seems like she's okay in her role as a diplomat, kind of maybe either she's the queen at this point, and she just tells Karoo we're setting sail for the East Blue. Then at age 60, she's just very distinguished and still basically looks the exact same. In the bad timeline though, she goes on a legendary downward spiral. At age 40, she's a pirate. And I'm not talking the happy-go-lucky adventure kind like Luffy, but I'm talking the rough and tumble pillaging kind. This is interesting to think about though, because what that almost guarantees is that we are in fact in the good timeline. Since she didn't actually end up setting sail with Luffy, so if she did, would this eventually be what happened? Did Vivi have to stay on Alabasta for the plot? Then y'all, at age 60, Vivi becomes a celestial dragon. And y'all, this is frying me. Vivi, the antithesis to what this kind of monarch is, becomes the exact opposite of what her family represents. Oh no. Then we get a question from somebody who seems to be literally a little kid who has just started One Piece. Because they heard from their father that once a character appears in a cover story, they never appear in the story again. And obviously, we know this to be false, so it seems like the dad was just playing a prank on him or whatever. But the most pertinent part of his answer is that he does confirm that Yamato will be coming back in some capacity. Which we could have figured because there's no way somebody as strong as her would just kind of chill on Wano and not be part of the final war, especially since Wano will be part of the final war anyway. But now Now the question is whether Oda will actually make her join the crew proper, or will he make her like a Grand Fleet member, just an ally? All I'm gonna say is that, hey, if she is joining, I pray for the sake of her fans that she's broken out of this I'm Odin genjutsu. Then we finally get an answer to a question we've had for time. On the cover of chapter 631, we see Crocus at the Twin Capes drinking with a particular man wearing a casa hat and Wano style clothes. Now because of his hair coloration, a lot of people thought that this was in fact Shiki the Golden Lion, but nope, Oda confirms it to have been Scopper Gaban this whole time, which of course was the only other reasonable option since they're, pals from their old Roger Pirate days. It just makes sense. Plus Oda also mentions what he revealed in the last SBS, which is that Gaban is a navigator, so he was still traveling around even after the Roger Pirates were like disbanded. And yeah, like I said, it's just the fact that we finally found this out after having it be such a long-standing debate in the community. It's about time we definitely got an answer. Then we get an explanation of how Wano's hierarchical structure is under Momo's new rule. Momo is obviously the shogun and he lives in the flower capital. Also staying with him are Kinemon, who is his senior advisor, so I guess obviously he's the person who's actually leading the operations. And then Neko Mamushi, who is the new boss of the Yakuza underworld. So the Yakuza are still in effect, and why? Like, why is it an underworld if like they're kind of known about, they're cool with the shogun? I don't really get it. Then the rest of the scabbards are split up across Wano and become the new regional daimyos. Denjiro and Kibi, Ino Arashi and Kuri, Raizo and Udon, Kawamatsu and Hakumai, and Kiku and Ringo. And you know what? All of this is great, but here's my thing. What the hell was the point of the cover story then? We literally just learned all of this information in Yamato's horrible cover story that just ended. So I don't understand why we're doubling up on information that we already know. And then Oda answers something? Some kid says that he thought up of a new devil fruit called the Shaki Shaki no Mi, or the Crunch Crunch fruit, which makes all of the user's attacks sharp. Not sure how that really works, but okay. Or how that's different from Mr. One's fruit, but also okay. But then the same kid asks what is the color of Jinbei's man downstairs? And of course Oda answers blue, but just like, what? Why? Like, why are we not vetting these questions beforehand? Surely there has to be some sort of process to be like, yeah, you know what, maybe this one shouldn't be included. He also mentions that Zunisha's poop is island-sized, and like all poop, eventually sinks into the ocean and becomes nutrients for the fishies, so thanks for that, I guess. Oda also reveals the family name for Saints Sharia, Charlos, and Rosward, which is Rosward. So like, Rosward's name is Saint Rosward, while Charlos's is Rosward Charlos, and my word. But speaking of the celestial dragons, we actually get a bit more on York's desire to become one. And I'm not gonna lie, Oda kind of enters his philosophy bag for this one, because the question he's asked is essentially, if York is an aspect of Vegapunk, does that mean that Vegapunk himself, or at least part of him, wanted to become a celestial dragon? To which Oda responds with a more existential answer that maybe everyone has a little bit in them that wants to be like a celestial dragon, but there are other egos and reasons in our being that morally prevent us from enacting that want. This is actually pretty interesting, Oda's philosophy here, because it actually gives Vegapunk's character like a bit more, well, substance. And it ties into his speech when he was talking about his ambition turning into greed and him not caring about the consequences for real. And as a philosophy minor myself, I find this quite fascinating. Oda then mentions this age of the sea circle and the age of heaven, the two calendars that are used in the One Piece world. As of right now, the current year in the heaven calendar is 4141, while in the sea circle calendar is 1541. However, he does say that you can kind of just forget about this because in general, he will round years when he's talking about time periods. Oh, and also another piece of information, Kuma's ship was named the Leap Out Jewelry, obviously in reference to his daughter Bonnie because, well, it's Bonnie. And then finally, speaking on Bonnie, we actually have a bit more substance for her as well, because Oda's asked if she's going to keep up her child appearance from now on, even though she used to like age herself up to look like she was in her 20s before. And Oda actually says that, of course, the reason that she used to do that was because, for one, people would not take a child captain seriously on the high seas. And on top of that, it was helping her in her quest for looking for Kuma. But now that she's kind of chilling on Elbaf, she has her dad with her, everything's looking kind of pretty chill for her, she's kind of okay with being her true self, which is just really sweet, because you imagine that, you know, as a kid having all of this pressure on you and then having to like literally grow up, to be able to just revert back, chill, and be a kid again, it's kind of nice, you know. That is the end of the SBS, y'all, and you know, we did get some information from this. Was it as peak as the last ones? No, I can't say it was. But what I do appreciate is that Oda is really dedicated to fleshing out the world building of his series. And as somebody who really loves world building, this is important to me, so you know what? I still appreciate it. Even if one of the big pieces of information we learned was the color of Jinbei's dick. Also, stay tuned for the next one. Guarantee that some Rocks Pirates questions will be asked in there. Now that will be the video, y'all, but before we go, like it, subscribe, and share it around with all your friends who love the series. Or just, me in general. I've been told I have a nice face. That's all from me. I'll catch y'all on the next one. And always remember, one piece, one life. Now if you'll excuse me, the 4 essays that I am writing concurrently for 4 different classes will not write themselves.